Yes, hello everyone. Fáilte Goody Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another weekend review show. It is Easter Sunday and I'm joined by Matthew Hurley to run through the two National Hurling League finals which took place across the weekend. We have plenty to get through. Limerick winning this round against Cork and the Banner beating Dublin in the Division 1B final. We have plenty to get through. And yeah, myself, Séamus, Brady, joined by Matthew Hurley to break it all down. And Brian O'Riordan and Peter Griffin, big shout out to both of you gentlemen, leading the way in the live chat. If you are new to the channel, that is how we do things. If you want to have your say on the weekend's action or anything like that, drop it in the live chat there. Let us know what you thought of the weekend or any questions that you have for myself or Matthew. Matthew, not exactly an ideal weekend for the Dubs and the Rebels. We both came out the wrong side of those league finals. But what did you make of the two national finals today?
Yeah, to be fair, I said this off air, James. At least both of us didn't get hammered, and both of us are going in with relative positives, I would say, going into the championship. Like from a Cork point of view, not great that we did lose to Limerick the way we did. Some people were even suggesting the intensity was off. Our forwards didn't click as usual. Even in the full back position, we still have problems going to the Tipperary game, which is a negative in all fairness. And as for Dublin Clare, it was just a weird enough game. Like Clare were well on top of the first half, I have to say. Like the interplay between Shane O'Donnell, Peter Duggan, Mark Rogers, they were absolutely scintillating to watch. Even the likes of Shane Meehan as well, a corner forward, who was absolutely incredible. And then Clare kind of did a weird thing and they took off Shane O'Donnell and David Fitzgerald at half time, which I found a bit puzzling. And then Dublin started to get a run on them. And eventually Dublin could have easily got something out of that game. Like Keane O'Sullivan's chance at the very end, brilliant save by Eibhear Quilligan. That could have easily drawn the game and brought to extra time. But look, it is a loss for both of them. Clare and Limerick reign supreme, which is another thing that's probably negative for both of us. But yeah, it's good the championship is coming up very soon. And in terms of this weekend, the fact there was only two of those games on today and both of us would have watched them in detail as well is a good thing. But it's a good thing in more ways than one that we only have those games to discuss and there was no other games happening this weekend. It was a good kind of break week, I would say.
Especially for preparing for the episode. I mean, long subscribers of our channels will know how hard, especially the early rounds of the club championships are. Do you remember the Stop the Bus back in when we had how many different championships to cover? And in the league, of course, when we had action across all the divisions in all four codes, those weekends are very hard to prepare for, to be honest, but they're enjoyable in their own way. These weekends are different. Obviously, we only have the two games, but we are going to treat them with the utmost respect. And we're going to dive into every single nook and cranny in these games. And we're going to start off, of course, with the Division 1A final. And as I said, if anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that to throw in, please do and help make the show even better. Brian here saying, please note Dublin Offaly in the Leinster Hurling Round Robin will be played on Saturday, 18th of April, while Dublin Carlow or Wicklow will be played on Sunday, the 19th of April. Yeah, maybe it could have been a double header there potentially, but who knows? Jero Gregan here as well. Obviously, happy Clare man today. Said second half Clare without Tony Kelly, Shane O'Donnell, Adam Hogan, Davy Mack, Mark Rogers for a good portion to get a win in those circumstances is a positive for Clare. Defense is a concern though. Michael here as well saying, great stream, gents. Good to see. Thanks very much, Michael. Welcome to the show. And we are going to start off our in-depth breakdown with this Division 1A final. Limerick versus Cork at the Gaelic Grounds. It finished Limerick 127, Cork 121. Limerick win this round, Matthew. It was a very, very intense game at stages, but when the going got tough and when leadership was needed, especially going down the home stretch, Aaron Gillan and Gearóid Hegarty were immense in the final few moments, having inspirational scores. Meanwhile, for Cork, they lose this round. But how are you feeling heading into the championship now? It wasn't exactly a classic, but it certainly wasn't a boring game by any stretch of the imagination. Just the bar is so high for these Cork-Limerick games. A very, very interesting contest. Limerick started like a house on fire. They got the first 6 points, and then the weirdest goal you'll see where Dermot Burns makes such an uncharacteristic mistake, gifts it to Brian Hayes, ball in the back of the net. From that point on, I think Limerick were the better team in the first half and they had the win, but Alan Connolly's frees keep Cork in touch at half-time. The third quarter is 50-50. Aaron Gillan obviously got that goal in the first half, so Limerick are still ahead. And then going down the home stretch when leadership was needed, Aaron Gillan and Gearóid Hegarty were immense. Huge plays from the two of them, inspirational scores from both of them, and Limerick get over the line. What do you make of this contest going into the championship meeting now between the two sides?
Very positive from a Limerick point of view. I have to start on that because they were the winners today and you have to give them their fair dues. Like Aaron Gillan was absolutely sensational. And during the week, we've been talking about, and throughout the whole league campaign, we've been talking about Limerick's youth and their exuberance in that. The likes of Aidan O'Connor, Colin O'Neill, Adam English. To be fair, Colin O'Neill and Adam English had very good games today, but it was the main players, as you mentioned there. Dermot Burns, despite the error in the first half, which I found absolutely shocking, was the most unusual goal that I'd ever see, and probably anybody would ever see. And to be fair, like Gearóid Hegarty was dominated around the middle third from puck out. Nicky Quaid and him were like in sync, which was a positive thing for Limerick. It was like the olden days, maybe 2 years ago, where Limerick were absolutely, pinpointing their accuracy each and every time. Aaron Gillan, what a guy today to step up for Limerick. Like, he was roasting the likes of Sean O'Donoghue in the first half and Niall O'Leary. None of the Cork defence had a notion what to do with Aaron Gillan. Like, and if there was a point, actually, I think it was Gillan was running through on goal. It was brought back for free, I think, at the end. But he actually soldiered Millerick away from a dummy, I think. And Millerick actually slipped on the ground. Like, Gillan was in that kind of form. He was absolutely sensational and he was just incredible. 1-4 from play, and the goal he got was absolutely brilliant in the first half too. Sensational performance from Limerick. Even Cian Lynch chipped in with a few instances of his brilliance. And even Kyle Hayes, like 5 points and assists. He got fouled for 2 of those and 3 points and assists from play as well. Like, he was absolutely sensational from wing back too. Like, Nicky Quaid, brilliant as well. I thought William O'Donoghue, especially the first half when Cork had the long ball tactic, I think William O'Donoghue swept it up very well. And that's kind of probably leads me on to Cork's kind of concern. A few things. Number one, we really haven't learned maybe the sweeper, what the opposition pull off kind of thing. We haven't learned from that. We did it against Tipperary last year. Ronan Maher absolutely swept up clean. Even the likes of Brian O'Mara last year in the All-Ireland final. Today, it was like a carbon copy in the first half. Cork were pucking the ball long. William O'Donoghue into the palm of the hand, straight up back again. Like, I just feel like Cork need to vary it up a small bit. They need to play short ball. They need to play smart kind of ball as well. In fairness, the forwards, Connolly did well in the frees and he converted every free, which was a positive, which I have been mentioning, which has been Cork's problem in terms of finding a complete free taker. I think they've done that now. Connolly is the main free taker and we're going to go with him for the championship. Brian Hayes played very well, albeit he got a slice of luck with the goal. I thought with 1-3, I thought he was very, very good. And even the likes of William Buckley, I thought, contributed very well in fairness. So it was a good enough performance from Cork's forward, but defence and even, I suppose, the intensity has to be fixed up from a Cork point of view as well. Like, in defence, we were all at sea. Fullback as well. Ciarán Joyce is a brilliant player, but he's not a natural fullback. I'm not sure what Ben O'Connor's kind of thought process is on that. On Ciarán Joyce going in fullback. Darragh O'Leary, we tried him during the league. He did, but like, you have in these sorts of situations, even before Munster Championship, something like that, you need to keep persisting with Darragh O'Leary just to give him a bit of confidence, or else go back to Owen Downey, go back to one of the two, or even go to someone else. Don't kind of convert a guy who's naturally a midfielder or a centre back or a wing back into a full back. I think it's absolutely
crucial in that position as well.
Absolutely. And I just feel like Cork needs to stop tinkering on that. And I will say this, if they play Ciarán Joyce fullback against Tipperary, whether it be John McGrath, whether it be Jake Morris, whether it be Darragh McCarthy up there, they are going to absolutely have a field day. Ciarán Joyce is just not used to the fullback position. I don't think he hasn't played there at underage. He hasn't played there for Castlemartyr. He hasn't played there for Emo Kelly, his division. And he's only played there for Cork in the last 2 games. I'm not sure what Ben O'Connor actually sees in this. Either, like, if you were going to try this, you had to try it in the first few rounds of the league. When you're leading up to championship, now we're in Easter, we're in April, that isn't the time to do it. It's as simple as that. And I just feel Cork need to go back to basics. Stick with the fullbacks that you have been used to, whether that be Owen Downey from last year or whether that be Darragh O'Leary from this year. You have to stick with one of them, with the natural fullbacks, and go with that. While I'm on Owen Downey, to be fair, I actually will give Owen Downey a lot of praise today. I thought he was very, very good at defence. I thought he put in some very, very good tackles. And when he was on a yellow card in the first half, I was like in my head, Ben needs to take him off. Because we've seen this rodeo before in the Fitzgibbon Cup with UCC, and of course the All-Ireland final last year, where Owen, he's on a yellow, he's walking a tightrope, and then he gets sent off. But to be fair, he stood his ground well. I have to say that from Owen Downey's standpoint. Maybe it is the time to put him back full back now. I just believe so. Like quarterbacks, even I know Sean O'Donoghue went off, and Ger Millerick, it is a difficult position for him to come on in that tight of an environment, that tight environment of a match like that. But you could see even on Galan from early on, he was struggling. And Cork need to kind of fix up the defensive issues going into the championship, because, as I said, with Tip's forwards there, I add Jason Ford to that list too. Tip are going to have an absolute field day if this keeps on continuing from a Cork point of view in terms of their defensive frailties.
Absolutely. We have plenty of comments coming in about this. Jer saying the ref in the Division 1A final was too whistle happy, took a lot of intensity out of the game at times. It was especially noticeable, Jer, in the first half. Brian O'Riordan asking, I'll take this one, saying, are Limerick back, considering they were beaten in the quarterfinals last year? People would have written them off. I think they were never gone away fully. It's just that day, in my opinion, they just completely underestimated Dublin that day. And once you go into a game with a certain mentality and they prove to be absolutely worth the match and they prove to be up for the contest, it's very, very hard to change your mindset and get back ready for the game. And that's what Limerick had that day. It was very, very hard to reset their mindset and be like, oh shit, Dublin are fully up for this and ready to go. And yeah, we got some lucky breaks that day, but we were fully deserving of the win as well. And obviously Sean Brennan saved that day from Galan was huge. But anyway, Limerick has certainly not gone anywhere. Maga says here, well, lads, happy Easter. Happy Easter to you too. Thank you for being with us on this stream. Brian here saying it's very risky and dangerous to play Kieran Joyce a fullback, especially in a position where he's never played. And A2 also saying Cork aren't winning in All-Ireland until they find a solution in that full back line. Questions for you directly, Matthew, saying what are the positives for Cork? Were Cork shadowboxing? Then on top of this, Jer has a couple. He says, mightn't be a bad thing for Cork to go into the championship without a hype train like last year. I know Cork people will say that train starts outside the county. And also says, do you think Ben O'Connor could confidently name a team now for round one against Tipperary? So your thoughts on those questions, Matthew. The positives that Cork can take from this game maybe is the fact that there isn't the same level of hype going into the championship this year a good thing?
That's a good thing, I have to say. And I have been saying over the league, and I have to be consistent on this, the hype not coming into the championship might be a good thing for Cork. The hype isn't there for Tipperary either. That's my worrying thing for 2 weeks' time. Because none of the teams are going in there with relevant hype. Like the hype's on Limerick, which is actually a good thing in terms of keeping the spotlight on them. But from a Cork and Tip point of view, it's like a clean slate going up to that game in Thurles. Like it is going to be a difficult game, and Cork will, judging by Limerick's performance today and the talent that they possessed and the performances they've been putting in, is the Tip game now in Thurles a must win for Cork. Because we've been saying it so many times, if you lose your first two games in Munster, you're well under the cosh. Yes, Cork have got out of Munster after losing the first two rounds before, but you need results. You're in a situation where you need results to go your way in the Munster Championship after that. That's a dangerous precedent. I just feel like, look, they have to win one of the two games. And look at Limerick right now. Limerick are an absolute steam train. I'm not sure are anybody going to stop Limerick this year. So judging by that, I think I know it might be absolutely pressing the panic button here, but I actually think the Tipperary game is more of a must win than people think. Even a draw up in Thurles I would take, to be honest with you. Like it is, we need to get a result. That's the bottom line. We need to get a result up there. In terms of a starting lineup, I think the full forward line is set now. I think you have to stick with Buckley, Connolly, Hayes. Stick with that. I think in other positions, centre forward, Barrett didn't have his best day today, but I think he is well capable of putting in a good performance, so I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. even at midfield, I think Tommy O'Connell and Tim O'Mahony have done well there. So there's an argument to say I wouldn't put Dara Fitz back in there. I'd still pick Dara Fitz at number 12. I think we still have a problem at the next position in the forward, and that's number 10. Hardney, look, he's been a legend for Cork.
Dudley Healy or Decky Dalton?
Yeah, I think Dudley Healy's definitely a suggestion for us. Decky Dalton, like a lot of people would actually say Decky's probably better for the bench, but you wouldn't put him in the full forward line now, which you would have done at the start of the league campaign. Like, who did you dislodge in terms of putting in Decky in the full forward line? Buckley, Connolly, Hayes. Honestly, you wouldn't dislodge any of them, judging by current form at this present moment. And judging that Buckley adds, the link, Hayes adds the scores, and Connolly adds the free taking, which we badly need after the retirement of Patrick Horgan. So you can't really take any of them out. Do you put Decky at 10? Does he have the energy for it? I'm not sure. It is a difficult one. I'd probably put Dudley Healy probably at 10. Then at the defensive positions in the half-back line, you probably have to keep Rob Downey there. I'd put in Mark Coleman. Micheál Mullins probably didn't have his best game, but he has proved that he is well capable of starting. But would you start him against Tipperary? I'm not sure. In that sort of environment, he is a young player. It is very difficult to see. Collins probably has to go and go now. You've stuck with him throughout the league campaign. You probably have to stick with him now. My worry, and I've said it the last kind of segment, Séamus, is he's fullback. Like, who do you put in there? Do you put in Owen Downey? Do you go back to him? But it's almost like you've thrown your new plans out the window and you're then reverting to the plan that was there last year. And I don't know, is that sort of a defeatist mentality for Ben O'Connor? Because he wants to put his own stamp on the team, obviously. It is a difficult question to answer, obviously, but in such a big game against Tipperary, do you put Owen Downey back into fullback?
I think you have to. I think that's the best option. I think the best option. I think you've got... I think the most experienced one out of the lot is Damien Cahalane, but I don't think he is who you'd put a fullback. I think he's too rash. I think I wouldn't start him as fullback. I would probably go with Owen Downey personally. Like me as a man who is looking at the Cork team completely unemotionally, don't have a horse in the race with how Cork get on. And most obviously I'd want them to do well, give it our friendship and work with the pod and everything but I would look at it and go, yeah, I agree. You have to stick with Collins in goal. I think full back line, you'd go O'Leary, O'Donoghue in the corners, and I'd go Owen Downey at 3 for this Munster Championship. I'd go Rob Downey at 6, and I'd go Joyce on the right and Coleman on the left. I'd go Tim O'Mahony and Tommy O'Connell. Yeah, Tommy O'Connell in midfield. I'd go Dara Fitz at the left half forward, Shane Barrett in the middle. And I'd go with Dermot Healy starting at right half with Séamus Hannity coming in when the game gets into the crunch period. Obviously, Hannity brings that experience in. And then full forward line, I would just about go with Buckley because I think there's an argument to be made for Decky Dalton there, but I would be throwing Decky Dalton in to the full forward line to kind of rough it up a bit at certain stages of the game with Alan Connolly and Brian Hayes. That's the team I'd go with. But I can understand the arguments for certain players to get in. I think Robbie O'Flynn is another outside shot, and then over the next few years I think players like Barry Walsh definitely have to be considered as well. I thought he looked impressive, definitely on under 20 level. But yeah, we have a couple of comments in here. Jenny84 saying, lads, there is no hype on Limerick. If they turn up mentally, they will win most matches. Up to them after that. Munster is anyone's for the taking. I wouldn't put money on anyone. I think that's well put, Jenny. And Joe saying, come on, Limerick, on to the next game. Brian saying, given the All-Ireland winners they have, Limerick were never gone. Given their performances in this league campaign, they would definitely be favourites for the All-Ireland. Beast saying here, Dublin hurled well today. Limerick are back as well. And says Cork full back line, not much good. Ben Cunningham for Cork should be brought in at the 10. That's an interesting shout, but a man who didn't really get any minutes in the league, so I probably wouldn't have him in. And then Tight Marker here saying, what about the poor refereeing? Lads on both sides, good podcast. Thank you very much, Tight Marker. Good to have you with us. And Porter saying, hard to believe it is 2 weeks' time. Tip versus Cork, summer hurling. Yeah, it's crazy that it's only around the corner. And Jenny saying, can anyone from Cork tell me who should have started today? but didn't. This wasn't Cork's full-strength team, was it? Who was the main player, Matthew, that you're looking at going, I can't wait? As a fan, I can't wait till he's back in.
As you mentioned there, and I forgot about completely until you mentioned him, Dudley Healy. I think he was probably one of our main guys in the forwards last year for such a young player. And if he does come back for the championship game against Tipperary, he'd be absolutely massive for his speed, for his link play as well with this Cork forward line. I think he'd be absolutely massive in that. And then, like, I think Mark Coleman, in terms of starting, like, he came on off the bench, and I think he looked actually comfortable on the ball, and he looked very comfortable in his position. And you're thinking, at that rate, why didn't Ben start him? But at the same time, I'm thinking, is Ben O'Connor playing street smart here? Is he holding his cards close to his chest before the championship begins? But then I'm thinking, judging by Ben's interviews at the start of the year, that isn't him. Because he would have wanted to win this game, and he would have wanted to win the league as well. So it's very difficult. That I do get the Dickie Dawson kind of thing for the full forward, but I see that, and I said this to one of the people I was watching, watching the match with today on the couch. I actually said about Dickie Dawson's substitute, I think it was at the 67th minute, and I'm saying, too late. Like, we're chasing the game. Why are you bringing him in the 67th minute? Like, it was just, I don't know, it was kind of a bizarre. So, but I think it's sort of a situation with Dublin, actually, with John Henderson. Possibly bring him on late on in the game, bombard the square, and see what Deckie's made of. Like, I think that's probably a great plan B to have when Cork are kind of struggling in the latter ends of games. So, yeah, I think Dudley Healy, to answer your question, is a massive loss. I think Mark Coleman, in terms of starting, has to start as well in the next game. Joyce, in terms of his right position, probably at wing back or even centre back, I think he is a massive loss in those sorts of positions. So I think that isn't Cork's starting team. I agree with the comment there. There is other plugs to fill, and we'll have to see how it all plays out in the championship. Like, in my opinion, I might be wrong in Limerick, but I think that's Limerick's best starting 15, other than I'd put Peter Casey instead of David Reedy. Other than that, I think that's Limerick's best 15. So, was it apples with oranges today? Was it? Maybe it was Cork playing cards close to their chest, but then again, I said it before, this isn't Ben. He would have wanted to win this game, so... Yeah, Barry Walsh as well. I think Barry Walsh, because of his involvement with the under-20s, wasn't involved today. And that was a good move by Ben in terms of player welfare. But once the under-20 championship is finished with, Barry will get more minutes, I'm sure. So that was another loss too.
It's crazy. Quick question then. Just this one has just popped into my head. If you could transfer anyone from Ireland into the Cork team, would you take a fullback straight away? Would you take someone like a Hugh Lawler or...
Well, considering Hugh Lawler isn't playing, no, I wouldn't take him. That'd be a bit of a waste for transfer.
Ronan Mara, maybe?
Ronan Mara, I'm kind of thinking even Owen O'Donnell would be a good show, to be fair.
Owen looked very good today in the second half. Yeah. He looked very good today in the second half. Jenny here saying Gillan all day long.
Well, I wouldn't, to be honest, because Gillan...
If Limerick don't have Gillan and you have him, maybe. Like,
maybe, yeah. But the thing is, what does Gillan add to our full forward line that we don't already have at the same time?
It's an interesting question. But he was outstanding today. I think we have to give a special shout to him. And one thing about as well is that Aaron Gillan, for a man that was just like absolutely the heartbeat of the attack and on the freeze, for a man as important as he is to willingly give up the freeze. Like, I know that obviously John Cúilín and Paul Kinnerk have come to him and said, listen, Aidan O'Connor's taking the freeze. But he was asked about it in his post-match interview. He just seems like, yeah, it is what it is. For a player as powerful as he is, as big as he is in the dressing room, no doubt, to be cool with the freeze duties being taken off him, I think that speaks a lot about his ego and his character in the team. He's more than happy to just do his bit for the team. I really, really respect that about him, because, you know, a lot of players would want to keep the freeze because how many points is that adding onto their tally and everything like that. Garrod here saying Shane O'Donnell, maybe perhaps for a great shout there. Jenny's saying definitely some shadow boxing going on in Cork. 100% agree with the Limerick setup. Casey in instead of Reedy. Matthew, you have another question here. It's a quick question for Matthew if you have time. Despite the loss today, Cork have always managed to compete in both football and hurling, which is commendable. Any insight into how you have managed that?
Well, we haven't done so in the last few years, I have to say. But thanks for the comment. I have to say over that. But yeah, it's kind of a difficult thing to balance in terms of football and hurling, because in football, to be fair, and speaking of William Buckley and Brian Hayes, are probably star forwards today, they'd easily walk into our football team, judging by what they've done with the bars, especially Brian Hayes. I think he's absolutely sensational footballer. William Buckley as well.
And he's a tank.
Yeah,
he's a unit around the midfield.
He is, absolutely. And yeah, like, how do we balance football? Well, to be fair, we probably should be, because it's the size of our county. Like, we have the biggest, other than Dublin and Antrim, I think we have the biggest population in the whole country. So, like, and we have the biggest kind of spread area as well, because, like, in hurling, you have East Cork, you have the City, possibly North Cork, North-East Cork. And then in football, you have West Cork and Duhallow. That's basically the regions there. They're kind of football, and then they're hurling as well. So yeah, it's kind of a situation, to answer that Cork need to be doing well in both. It might be more commendable of the likes of Clare a few years ago, maybe not so now. I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. Kildare, actually, commendable, to be fair.
Yeah, you're talking like pound for pound counties that are competing in both.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like, the thing is, Galway, Cork are big in population, then Dublin as well. So could you really say pound for pound that they're doing well in both? Because probably not.
Galway are a big county, but in population, like, they're nowhere near Dublin, like, in population wise. But in terms of, I think one of the things that people don't realize until they come to Dublin is other sports are also much bigger in Dublin maybe than they are in other parts of the country. Like, rugby has such a stranglehold over parts like D4 and stuff like that. And then obviously soccer is really, really big around the areas like Tallaght, where Shamrock Rovers are. You've got Bows, you've got St. Pat's, you've got, Shelburne. Like, there's a lot of big sports that are really, really popular in Dublin as well. And just the population brings its own challenges with it. Finding the best players when there's so many players is also tough. Like, you lose a lot of players who don't quite make the initial breakthrough. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. Like, what is your best pound for pound dual county? That's a really, really interesting debate in terms of, like, if you're talking, because Dublin and Cork, I agree, Dublin and Cork should compete at both because of the population that they have. And what's interesting is you're talking about Cork having areas for the football and areas for the hurling. Interestingly, with Dublin, I would have always looked at it growing up saying Southside is more where the hurling clubs are. Because, when I was starting to get really into GA coverage and everything like that, Cúilín were winning the All-Irelands, Ballybowden were winning the All-Irelands with that, winning the Dublin titles with that team with Gary Maguire and Stephen Heine and all those players. And Cúilín were winning the All-Ireland back-to-back. And then in the football, it was St. Vincent's that had that glory team. So I looked at, like, the north side of Dublin was more football and the south side was more hurling. Interestingly, in the last 2 or 3 years, it seems to have really swapped. You've got Cúilín winning the All-Ireland football title, Kilmacud winning the All-Ireland football title, Ballybowden making it to the semi-final. And then you've got the hurling, you've got Nafina really coming to the fore. So it seems to have swapped sides. And then other clubs like Luke and Sarsfield's really, really making strides. So interesting. What is your kind of valuation on it? And then love to hear your opinions, lads. I think Offaly are a good shout if you're talking pound for pound, historically a county that has done well. But I think for me, the best dual county has to be Cork. When you look at how many All-Irelands Cork have won in all 4 codes, not just on the men's side, but the women's side as well. How many of those players like Rena Buckley, 18 All-Irelands between football and camogie is absolutely insane. So I probably will go with Cork, best dual county. Jerry saying Galway are a jack of all trades, really competitive in hurling, camogie, men's and ladies football. I agree. There's plenty that you can choose from there. But yeah, back to the game. I suppose what do we look at next? I think the next question I was going to throw to you, Matthew, is just on that leadership. Garrod Hegarty and Aaron Gillan going down the home stretch, that's where their experience really shone, because 63 minutes, Mark Coleman lands over that score, 2 points between the teams, 121 to 119, all to play for. And that's when Limerick's experience really shone through, especially Hegarty and Gillan.
Yeah, and probably a pleasing stat from a Limerick point of view. They always led in this game. As soon as they got the first point of the game, Cork never drew or top of Limerick in terms of the lead. And when Limerick were even 2 points ahead, there was still there was a sense out of them Limerick players, the likes of the Glans and the Hagertys, that we have the experience to get this over the line. We're going to stay calm and do our own thing over this. And look, I think that's absolutely invaluable to have from a Limerick point of view. Even the likes of Dermot Burns and even the younger players, like the likes of, and we talked about them in depth. Shane O'Brien and Aidan O'Connor, maybe the occasion got to them. But you look at the likes of Cathal O'Neill, like the scores he was getting, the clutch scores, you have to give him credit for that. Adam English, absolutely sensational around the middle of the park. And I said it last year, he is probably Limerick's. You could talk about Gillan, you could talk about Hagerty, Burns, all of them. I think Adam English is Limerick's most important player in terms of creating scores, in terms of starting attacks, in terms of just his general consistency. I think he's absolutely sensational around the middle of the park. Nicky Quaid, the puck out, absolutely pinpoint. Even around the defensive line, I know Cork probably played into their hands a small bit, but Will O'Donoghue in the first half, I thought was absolutely brilliant at sweeping up. I thought Kyle Hayes at linking up play was brilliant. Like all around the pitch, Limerick absolutely cleaned them. And even David Reedy, I know he didn't score much and he didn't contribute much in the forwards, but even when he did kind of the necessary, if you know what I mean, around the Limerick team. He did the things, we're passing it off to Aaron Gillan, passing it off to Garrod Hegarty, and they do the business up front. Hegarty was absolutely dominant in the air up front, and then Will O'Donoghue was dominant at the back. So, like, Limerick had a good launch pad there as well, and they were absolutely sensational in all of that as well. And look, they had over 40 shots against a Cork team that are actually decent, and they only conceded 29 shots against Cork. Like, that's... To be fair, that's very, very good numbers. I think John Cúilín would be absolutely pleased with that. The one thing he wouldn't be pleased with, I suppose, was the Dermot Burns pass across the goal, because that was kind of just a lapse in concentration. But I'm sure they'll have to iron that in the next few weeks in terms of that. Look, it might have just been a one-off thing. Burns might have been trying a thing where he doesn't usually do it, to be fair. But that's something that they need to iron out in future weeks if they are to do well and get the All-Ireland title for the first time since 2023. So yeah, I think Limerick are looking very, very good. There is areas to improve, and John Cúilín has said that in post-match interviews, and I'm sure he'll be absolutely drilling into these Limerick players. They are going to say in the dressing room, they haven't won anything yet. They're going to say that there is stuff to work on and we need to do it for the next few weeks. And coincidentally, I think their first Munster Championship game is against Cork. So nothing is won. They'll know that, and they'll have to go back to the drawing board and now prepare for the Munster Championship, which is very, very difficult to win, in fairness. So yeah, real positives in terms of the league for Limerick. The biggest positive is the older players really stepping up today, and earlier on in the campaign, it was the young ones. So there's a nice kind of blend and a nice mix with Limerick this year.
There certainly is. I think they're taking a bit of a step back and kind of rebranded, put a fresh lick of paint on it, but like it's still an unbelievable team. Like when it was laid out there on TG Ceathair, I was just like, moving Will O'Donoghue to centre back permanently has allowed Adam English to slot in there at midfield. I thought Cathal O'Neill looked sensational today. There was one score he got where he caught it straight from Nicky Quaid's puck out and then put it over the bar off the left. And it was such an impressive score. He's matured into one of their most important players. I agree. I think Peter Casey, for me, should start in the inside forward line. But just things like, you know, letting Séamus Flanagan go off the panel. I know that isn't necessarily a positive because he's a superb player. But it shows that John Cúilín and Paul Kinnerk are dead ass serious about where this team is going to go. They're taking no shit. If they feel like someone isn't on the same path with them, clearly they're making changes because they want to win the All-Ireland again. I feel like 100% this Limerick team, the team that they're always compared to is Dublin's 6 in a row. But if you look at Dublin's 6 in a row, they had a couple of years where they lost their grip, 2021, 2022. They reskinned. You know, they took a step back. brought a couple of players back into the fold. That was more what Dublin did, but they definitely changed the team around. There were key players in that year, like Lee Gannon, that weren't around in 2020 when Dublin had last won, that had a big impact on winning the All-Ireland that year. If you look at Limerick, you can't tell me that this Limerick team doesn't have another All-Ireland in it. And it could potentially be this year. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't want that, but could definitely be this year. I'd be scared to write them off. Jer is asking us to discuss the ref. He says, I need to rant. Jer, I'd be interested to hear what exactly was your main grievance with the ref. I had one in the first half. I felt he was a bit whistle happy. And there was a 10-minute period where the game was very stop-start. A lot of frees being called. Is that necessary, though, Matthew, in a game like this where Cork and Limerick know each other so well? There was a couple of moments where you thought, oh, here we go, it's going to kick off. And it didn't. And we avoided a big brawl this time. But do you think that if the referee had let those 10 minutes go where the hard hits were going in, that maybe we would have got a brawl? Like, was that maybe his thinking behind being kind of whistle happy there?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was a smart move, to be fair, in terms of trying to calm the game down, all that. And I think in terms of reducing brawls in both games today, I think both refs had a good game in terms of those sorts of elements. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think this is what irked him in terms of Cork and Limerick, first of all, with Cian Lynch's, well, it ended up in the back of the net. And then it was brought back for a free. The advantage wasn't given. Like, if I was a Limerick fan looking at that, and then it was brought for a throw ball because Limerick had complaints. If I was a Limerick fan looking at that, I'll be honest with you, I'd be absolutely angered over that. And then Brian Hayes actually went up the other end and scored a point for Cork. And it was like
there was no reason. There was no reason for that goal not to be allowed.
No, there wasn't.
You watched the replay back. I was like, what did he think he saw?
No, I don't. And another thing, actually, and I know we'll get on to Clare and Dublin in a sec, but the goal from, I think it was Ryan Taylor after Shane O'Donnell's pass. Shane O'Donnell was fouled and Ryan Taylor had a shot saved, but then he easily put in the rebound after Shaw Brennan was on the ground. And then the ref brought it back for a free. And it's just, could you not have just allowed the advantage just a couple more seconds until the play went out after that? I think that's something in terms of, like, I know there's the centre room coming in for the Hurling Championship, and it's not the most idealistic thing to come in before the Hurling Championship because summer hurling is, as Brian said in the comments there, 2 weeks away. Like, it is just around the corner. That probably isn't needed. We probably needed that in the league to trial out this sort of ruling and things like that. But now we have another problem going to the pot, and that's this advantage rule. Like, I think in terms of the game, in terms of the spectacle, I think refs need to be told by whoever's in control, whether that be central council or whatever, just let the play flow. Like, no matter if the shot is saved or whatever, just let it for another couple more seconds. Mm-hmm. And okay, if the ball goes wide and if the ball goes out for a line ball, okay, call it back then. But if the ball is back to the player, like it was in the Clare Dublin games or Ryan Taylor, just allow it a couple of seconds and then blow the whistle then. I mean, it was probably worse than the Limerick Cork game because it was actually brought back for a throw ball because of dissent. But I feel like that's something that needs to be ironed out in the championship.
I agree because I get that the advantage time had ran out, but like it's on the goal line, like absolutely crazy position to pull it back. Brian here saying need to let the play flow and advantage go, and then if he needs to bring it back, do. Jerry saying he needed to shallow the whistle. He didn't let play develop, and it took the excitement out of the game. He needs to go to the Keenan School of Reffing. And the Cork Hurling pod here saying desperately disappointing performance from Cork today. A lot to fix in only 2 weeks. We play like that in Munster. We are finishing rock bottom. And like, I do believe like those first 2 games for Cork, I think are absolutely crucial. I agree. I think because I think it could have a domino effect one into the other. I think if you lose the tip, then going into the Limerick game in round 2, it becomes very, very difficult to win that game. Back to the wall type stuff. So yeah, we're going to move on to Division 1B after this. But I'm just going to ask you for your final reflection on this game, how you break down this game and then how you look ahead into championship.
Well, to be fair, I think Limerick were absolutely the team most up for it, and their players absolutely performed to their utmost today. Maybe that kind of is a good thing for Cork in terms of the hype going down, but I'm sure Ben would not be happy with the performances today, particularly in the full back line. I think that's a massive issue for Cork. Do we stick with Kieran Joyce at full back, or do we put someone else there? That's something that has to be fixed for Tipperary in a few weeks' time, because as I said, and I think you've said it before, Séamus, as well, that the first two games are now massive against Tipperary and against Limerick, because if you lose your first two games in Munster, you're then chasing your tail, and it's not good in terms of building for the championship in terms of that. But Limerick were sensational, not just the young players who have been very good in the league campaign up until now, but the older players, the Garrett Hagertys, the Aaron Gallans, the Dermot Burns, the William O'Donoghues. They really stepped up for Limerick. Nicky Quaid as well. They really stepped up, and that was a positive for Limerick moving into the championship. And I would put Limerick as All-Ireland favourites. Now, Limerick look very, very good going to the first round of Munster. As for Cork, a lot to work on, but I think the main question is, who will play full back in the first round?
Yeah, very, very interesting to see. And we're going to move on after this comment from Jesse James saying, at the game today, Cork brought no physicality to the game. Not a hope it will be like that in the championship. Well, Limerick are the Division 1A champions for 2026. The National Hurling League champions 2026 are Limerick. Congratulations to the treaty deserving winners over the course of the league campaign. And now we're going to move on to Division 1B, and yeah, the delight continues. Dublin, unfortunately, not able to win this game. However, I am happy with the performance, and we're going to dive into the game now in its entirety. Clare 226, Dublin 320 at the Gaelic grounds. Matthew, I suppose, given that I mainly questioned you as the Cork fan, I don't know if you want to take the driving seat on this game and kind of pick my brain as a Dublin fan. I don't know if you want to take the wheel here.
Yeah, like it was an interesting enough game. Like half time, like I thought Clare were a much better team in terms of this. Like the Shane O'Donnell performance, I thought was absolutely brilliant. He got 1-3 assists in the first half, scored 1-1 as well. I thought he was absolutely superb. Dave Fitzgerald was linking things very well as well. Mark Rogers was brilliant. Shane Meehan, young player coming in, I thought it was brilliant from Clare. It was hunky-dory at half time. But then Clare bring off Shane O'Donnell and Davy Fitz at half time. And I'm thinking, that's a bit of a weird move. I don't know what was. Maybe the only thing I can think of genuinely is Brian Lohan was resting those players for the Waterford game in 2 weeks' time. Genuinely, I think that was the reasoning behind that. But Dublin started to get a bit of a grip on the game. Cian O'Sullivan started to get into it, and once Cian O'Sullivan was on the frees, I thought Séamus, Dublin were absolutely brilliant on the free taking, and they were converting their frees very, very well. John Henderson caused problems, even though he only got a goal in this game from a penalty, which we probably should have got more, to be fair. But I think Fergal Wiley was very lively in the second half as well. And then Dublin could have equalised the game late on, obviously, with Whiteley's goal. And then Cian O'Sullivan, a brilliant save by Eibhear Quilligan to keep Clare in the driving seat. And then Dermot Ryan started to step up. Shane Meehan started to step up as well. And Clare drove on home in this game. Concerns, I think, from a Dublin point of view in the first half in terms of their performance, I think that will concern them going to the championship. But in terms of the second half, I think they'll be very positive in terms of keeping up with Clare. For Clare, I think the negative, in terms of the performance, I think Clare were very good in the first half. And then they started to take you off their players. And obviously there was a dip. But then Mark Rogers getting injured. I know he said in the TG Carr interview he was fine. But that is a concern for Clare moving forward, because Mark Rogers has been sensational in the league campaign. He's got 1 goal and 62 points in the league in Division 1B. Clare's top scorer, the overall top scorer, Division 1B. If Rogers was correct in what he was saying to TG Carr, okay, they don't have anything to worry about. But some people were saying it looked like a twisted ankle. That's worrying from a Clare point of view. If he's out, he's worried, to be fair. But O'Donnell went off injury-free. Davy Fitz went off injury-free. Tony Kelly didn't play the game either. David McInerney didn't play. So Clare still have players to come back in. So that's a positive. As for Dublin as well, the likes of Donald Burke still have to come back in. Liam Rush was up in the stands as well. I don't know what the situation is with AJ Murphy. I don't know why he's on the panel. I'll let you go ahead with Séamus, but what did you think?
Yeah, no, very interesting. Well, I'll just read through the comments here first. Jesse Jones saying, listening to an interview after the match with Lohan, he said O'Donnell picked up a knock and they took him off due to that. I wouldn't be surprised if like O'Donnell literally hinted at an injury and Lohan was like, right, get the fuck off. Like, we're not losing you for the Waterford game in a couple of weeks' time. Brian saying, while it's massively disappointing to lose, there were loads of positives going into the championship. And if we take the learnings from last year's semi-final, we could have another big year. I agree. Look, it was interesting. It was a very strange first half. I didn't really know what to make of it at all. Like, we had a poor start. There's no question about it. We got a dream opening with the penalty given to John Heatherton. He tucked it away really, really well. Honestly, I thought it was a soft penalty and a black card, and that's coming from a Dublin fan. I thought Clare had a right to feel a little bit hard done by there. Heatherton took the penalty away really, really well. And we're thinking, okay, here we go. And then we were not able to deal with Clare's inside forward line at all in the first half. Shane O'Donnell caused so many problems. His goal was kind of effortless. He looked like he could run through us at will at times. Shane Meehan as well. That was a lovely goal for Clare, the second one. And all of a sudden it was 2-7 to 1-2. And I was thinking this could actually get bad if we don't slam the brakes on this really quick. Cian O'Sullivan's goal came at a timely moment for us because it just helped to slam the brakes a little bit on Clare's momentum. But at halftime, it was a 10-point game. Clare were that much better than us in the first half. Second half, we needed a big response. We absolutely got that. 6 scores in a row got us back into the contest. Even though Clare responded with 3 in a row, we just never went away, kept at it. Cian O'Sullivan, I thought, was absolutely immense. He finished with 110, like outstanding individual display. And then Hedjo was causing problems throughout the entire game. Fergal Whiteley gets that goal in the 62nd minute. Now we're right back in the game. And then that's saved by Ava Quilligan. If that had gone in from Cian O'Sullivan, it would have been a draw game. I certainly wouldn't have written us off winning that game right at the death. However, I'm not getting carried away to the point where I don't think that Clare were the better team. Clare were the better team. They deserved to win that game. And the fact that our defence started to deal better with Clare's threats in the second half and started to perform better may have something to do with the fact that Shane O'Donnell was taken off, that Mark Rogers had to go off. Players like that leave. Naturally, the task of defending Clare's attack will get a little bit easier. So I definitely believe we have a lot of positives going into the championship. The way that we got our promotion was not easy. We battled to the bitter end to get that draw against Wexford when we had 13 men on the pitch. We battled to the bitter end and nearly got something in this final against Clare, nearly pushed it to extra time. If that shot went in from Cian O'Sullivan that Ava Quilligan saved, maybe we would have snatched it. I think it would have been daylight robbery, but maybe we would have done it. And the fact that as well, we've had players like Cian Boland, Liam Rush, Owen O'Donnell, who I thought was outstanding today. The fact that we've had players like that return to the panel is a massive boost. The fact that we still have players like Donald Burke, Sean Curry to return to the team, I think is massive as well. We're in a very, very good place. And I think Dublin are a great bet to win the Leinster Championship this year, or at least to get to the final. This year we have Kilkenny at home in Parnell Park in round 5. I think if we're ever going to beat them, it's this year. We have to beat them this year if we're ever going to beat them. So honestly, I knew we were underdogs going down there to the Gaelic grounds. Clare have way more experience playing in the Gaelic grounds. Honestly, they are a more talented team. If you're looking at the player for player, they have more talent in their squad. So we need to play the game a certain way, and we need certain things to go our way in order to beat them. And I thought we can walk out there with our head held high. We lost that game. We didn't play to our best, and we only lost by 3 points. So going into the championship, I'm pretty confident. Not that we're going to win the All-Ireland, but that we're going to take another step in the right direction.
Yeah, and to be fair, like even look at the figures from today, 71% shooting accuracy for Dublin. That's actually pretty good. And judging by that as well, Clare actually had 77%. So it was just a good day overall for shooting for both sides. And like Dublin had 32 shots, Clare 36 as well. In a game that Clare were, and it looked like Clare were absolutely dominant in this one, especially in the first half. I thought they were sensational in the first half in terms of putting the pressure on Dublin. But when you look at those figures, Dublin were closer than people may think in this game. So that is a positive for Dublin going into the championship.
We had a lot of success on the puckouts. A lot of success on their puckouts. I think that's one thing that a lot of people, we won half of Clare's puckouts in the first half.
Yeah, and you won half of from the end as well of Clare's puckouts. So that is a positive.
At full time as well.
Yeah, it was Clare 30 puckouts overall, 15 won, 15 lost.
Jesus. That is crazy.
Yeah,
Like, that's something that I wouldn't have thought now.
Now, and to be fair, like Dublin won 75% of their puckouts, but albeit, bit of an asterisk here, Dublin were going short in the first half.
Yeah.
For a lot of
It's
them.
kind of
They
easy
were
to win them ones.
If you don't win them ones, that's worrying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dublin, there is positives looking at this performance in terms of that as well. Okay, the turnovers, Clare 38, Dublin at 29. Okay, that is a worry in fairness in terms of fighting around the middle third for the ball and going on to break ball. I think that is a negative for Dublin looking at that. But even scores from play, Clare at 2-14, Dublin at 2-13. They had 7 wides as well, Dublin. So look, I think Dublin were very, very competitive in this game. The likes of John Henderson were absolutely brilliant. Keane O'Sullivan was absolutely sensational as well. Conor Donoghue were on the middle, I thought was very good as well. Obviously at Henderson, you've Dar Power there as well. Purcell. I thought Chris Crummy created a lot of attacks for you. I thought he was very, very good in this game. So yeah, I think Dublin, there's a lot of positives moving forward as well. And the fact that Donald Burke still has to come back into the team, potentially AJ Murphy, obviously Liam Rush. Like, that is a positive for Dublin, the majority, and the Currys. The obvious, the Nafina boys. I'm not sure why they didn't play to start off, but with them coming back in, that's really a positive going in for Dublin. And I think, call you spade a spade, you're better than Wexford, without a doubt. You're better than Offaly. Yeah, and you're better than Kildare. Galway, I think Galway were very good in Division 1A.
Yeah, I think Galway win 5 from 5 for me in Leinster this year. They have Dublin and Kilkenny in Pearse Stadium.
Yeah,
so, I think.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if they drop a point, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Galway look very good as well. But as you mentioned there, the Kilkenny game, but the warning signs are always there with Kilkenny because just you never write them off. Because no matter how bad they're doing or whatever, they're just there. They're just there in the championship, and they will give anybody a game. So, like, but I do agree with you. I think if Dublin are to get a win over Kilkenny, I think it's this year.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing is we've had two. There's especially in Parnell Park 2 heartbreaking defeats. Anytime I think about it, the first one was 2018. Pat Gilroy and Anthony Cunningham in as joint managers. We get Kilkenny and Parnell Park. Conal Keeney came back that year. He was amazing in that game. And then Liam Blanchfield batted in the winner right at the death. Fucking broke my heart. Then 2023, I think it was, where we had them in Parnell Park and Owen Cody hit a late goal. That was crucial in Kilkenny getting the win that day. And that year we ended up getting Kilkenny in the Leinster final. And because of the way that Leinster clash had gone in Parnell Park, where we probably should have beat them, a lot of people were going into the Leinster final going, do you know what? Maybe, just maybe, we might beat them this time. Owen Cody scored a goal inside about 2 minutes, and it ended up being an absolute slaughter in Croke Park. So I have learned to only really believe that we're going to beat Kilkenny when it's 69 minutes and 30 seconds and we're 19 points up. Like, literally, I've only learned to believe it then. But yeah, I think quietly, I think if there hasn't been a better chance for us to beat them since 2013. I strongly believe that, because they still, even in 2023, they still had TJ 2 years younger. I think like players like Walter Walsh were still in the panel who added something completely different. Players like Parg Walsh were still in the panel. Like, they were a better side. Hugh Lawler was there. He's not going to be there this year. Hedgehoe, who is going to mark John Heatherton in that Kilkenny game? Like, there's a lot of problems that we can give them in that game. We have them in Parnell Park. The atmosphere is going to be off the scale. And going into that contest, that game could be a Leinster semi-final. That could be to get into the Leinster final. So the atmosphere will be through the roof, will be sold out. I think this is the time to beat them. But yeah, all in all, I'm very, very positive about heading into the championship. I think we have had a good league. But yeah, that's probably enough on Dublin. We have to obviously give a word to the winners, the banner. What did you make of them?
I thought they were brilliant in the first half, and that's, to be honest, realistically, that's the only way you could judge Clare today, because Shane O'Donnell went off, Davy Fitz went off, and obviously Mark Rogers went off. Obviously, that was forced because of an injury, and hopefully Mark gets well soon. But But yeah, it was just a complete performance in the first half from Clare. They caused Dublin a lot of problems in that first half, particularly with the long ball up top. Like whether it was Shane O'Donnell winning it or whether it was Peter Duggan, who I actually think did very well at linking it up. And I think he is probably a big part of that Clare forward line as well. He probably wouldn't do the fancy things that possibly Tony Kelly would do or Mark Rogers would do or Shane Meehan. But I think he's a necessity. I think he is an absolute nuisance up there. And I think he will provide Clare a lot of joy in this championship as well. And even Clare do have a very good pick out of their forwards. Like Davy Fitz is now playing in the forward line this year permanently. He's not going to be named in midfield. Thank God from my point of view, because I'm not going to be confusing him with a midfielder ever again now. So you have Davy Fitz there. You have Tony Kelly once he does come back. You have Peter Duggan, you have Shane O'Donnell, you have Shane Meehan there as well, and you have Mark Rogers. David Reedy is a very good option there as well. And also on the bench, you have Dermot Stritch there, who came on late. I think he is a very talented player there as well.
Shanahan was in the panel as well. He wasn't in the panel, but he was in amongst them. I think he could probably appear at some point. He's always a wild card off the bench too. He's
a wild card, but does he offer anything different than Peter Duggan? That's my worry with Shanahan. But yeah, he is definitely an option off the bench, and he will be definitely one to watch as well. Even if he does, like, I don't know what's the situations around Robin Mounsey, for example. Is he around the panel? If he is, that's another option. Jack O'Neill, I think, is a very good player, performed very well for you in the Fitzgibbon Cup as well. Even around midfield, I think Ryan Taylor was Clare's best player last year, underperforming year, albeit, but I thought he was very, very good then. And I think even Sean Rinn to come in as well. Cathal Malone seems to have found a very good position at wing back as well. Dermot Ryan performed excellent today, I have to say. I thought he was, when he was in the melting pot and Clare needed leaders, I think he was one of the guys to really step up. John Conlon still has it. Maybe not a full 70 minutes, but I think he is a very talented player as well. Conor Cleary was literally clearing up the Dublin full forward line in the first half, no pun intended, but he was very, very good as well. And Cúilín was very good in goal in terms of his puck outs. I know they lost half of them, Clare, but the plan was clear with Cúilín. They weren't going to puck it short. They were going to puck it long to O'Donnell or Mark Rogers or whoever was up there, Peter Duggan, and win the ball then. And I think Clare did very well on them own puckouts, and even off a few puckouts, they got a few scores. They got real joy off scoring from their own puckouts as well. So yeah, very good performance from Clare. They will improve in the championship, but that game against Waterford in 2 weeks' time is absolutely huge now in the Munster Championship for them. They're at home. It's probably a must-win game. If they are going to compete with Tipperary, Cork, Limerick, all of them as well. But Clare are a team you can never write off. They are a very good side, very good individual players, and Brian Lohan would want another crack in terms of winning a Munster Championship with this group of players. It is absolutely vital. And just before we leave Clare, Séamus, I have to obviously send my condolences to Ronan Kilroy. Obviously, his mother passed away during the week, hence why he wasn't on the panel today. He's been absolutely sensational in the league campaign, and it's a very difficult time for the Kilroy family, I can imagine. And rest in peace, Serious Rev Adam, to Ronan Kilroy's mother. And thank you, Ronan, on the pod this evening as well. Like, it is a difficult time that he went through today. And even I think Conor Cleary mentioned in his post-match speech that it's amazing that Ronan was actually here today. He obviously wasn't on the 26th, but he was there supporting the Clare team as well, which, yeah, it's a difficult time for the Kilroy family. I just want to pass on my condolences to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to echo that. I thought Cleary spoke very, very well, and yeah, it's a horrible time for the Kilroy family, and just want to pass on my sincerest condolences to anybody affected by that tragic passing there yesterday. Grabbing on him, Dealish. Okay, so we are going to move on to the final stage of the pod. Congratulations to Clare, Division 1B champions for 2026. We're going to introduce a new segment in just a moment. So let me add this in, because obviously we have a little bit of a different show, not as much to discuss. So I thought we'd add in a new segment. Brian saying here at this present time in league performance to say Dublin, Galway and Kilkenny will come out of Leinster. I would agree with that. Porter is also asking us what our 3 is to get out of Munster. He says, is it Cork, Limerick, Clare? Will we give that away, Matthew, or will we wait until we get the Hurling show out? For those who don't know, and we have a healthy number watching, we did a live in studio recording, just like we did for the league. We have a full championship preview coming for the men's football, for the women's football, for the hurling, and for the camogie. All are going to be coming out over the next few weeks as the championship is ahead of us. So next Wednesday, the 8th, the men's football championship preview will be released. The week after that, just before the hurling championship starts on that weekend, the hurling preview show will drop on that Wednesday and following on. So the LGFA championship then starts just at the end of April. We'll drop that episode on the Wednesday of that week. And then the camogie championship doesn't start until the end of May. So that one will be a little bit longer, but also that one is recorded as well and waiting to go on that Wednesday. I think we'll save it. We're going to release our predictions across the Cúilín Media Instagram page and social media pages and everything like that. So keep your eyes peeled and we'll be dropping them in. But Matthew, the part that I wanted to discuss is the Cúilín Media Weekly Awards. So we only had 2 games this week, but I just want to ask, let's have a look first of all. Jerry saying here, was that hurling preview recorded before today? As in, is Rogers going on? Oh yeah. That is a big disclaimer as well. All of those episodes were recorded on the 28th of March. So it was before the Football League finals, before Donegal annihilated Kerry in the Division 1 final. So that's a massive asterisk that has to be put on that episode. We have given a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode, but I'm sure people might ignore it and just give us abuse for it anyway. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, we're going to move on back to the awards. Matthew, the first award that I want to discuss with you is, what was the score of the weekend, in your opinion?
Score of the weekend. For me, I'm going to go for Shane Meehan's goal against Dublin.
That was very good. Very good shout. My score of the weekend is Cathal O'Neill's point against Cork, the one where he caught it from the puck out and then belted it up and over the bar. I think that was absolutely extraordinary, that score. So that's my score of the weekend. Guys, get involved in this bit. I'd love to hear your opinion on all of these things. Porter saying balanced goal, Aaron Gillan's goal. I think maybe that's what Porter was trying to say. Aaron Gillan's goal against Cork is a great shout for score of the weekend. Yeah, that is what I'm going to go with there. So what do we think? Jay saying Ryan Taylor's point in the second half from distance against the win. That's another really, really good shout. What do we think? Do you want to stick, or will we go Cathal O'Neill's or Shane Meehan's? Which one is the most easily replicated? I think maybe that's Shane Meehan's was the delicate little flick over, wasn't it?
And just a bang into the top corner.
Yeah, I'll go with Shane Meehan. I'll switch. I'll go Shane Meehan. So that's our score of the weekend between me and Matthew. Very, very good suggestions in the comments as well, though. Brian saying Keane O'Sullivan's goal against Clare. Yeah, that's another good one to be considered. Save of the weekend. I have one. I can just suggest Eibhear Quilligan save from Keane O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Nearly made me punch the TV because I thought that was going straight in. That was an unbelievable save, and very reminiscent to his save from Robbie O'Flynn in the 2024 All-Ireland final as well. So that's save of the weekend is Eibhear Quilligan. Player of the weekend.
So for man of the match, for my man of the match on my page, I actually said Dermot Ryan in the first game, and the second game I said Gillan. It has to be Gillan, surely.
Yeah, I agree. Gillan is our player of the weekend, and I suppose moment of the weekend is another good one.
I have to say Conor Cleary mentioning Ronan Kilroy's mother in the post-match speech. I think that was my moment of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any others that we can think of? Obviously adding in a bit of a new segment into it, everything.
No, we can't have this because there was 2 games this weekend, but shock of the weekend.
Shock of the weekend, yeah. Shock of the weekend, I suppose. Limerick's second goal maybe being disallowed. But Yeah, Jerry saying I'll give it to Glenn, but I think Shane O'Donnell would have gotten it if he played in both halves. It's a good point. He was off the Stormer. But yeah, I think that's the first weekend. We're gonna roll this out a little bit more, especially when the championship begins. But yeah, that's a new thing that we're gonna add to the show. Maybe bring it in a little bit less when there's bumper games on and everything like that. And Jerry saying ref of the weekend, Tyler Ross. One last dig in at the referee in the Cork versus Limerick game. But anyway, we are going to wrap it up there. Limerick are the Division 1A champions and Clare are the Division 1B champions. And that is the National Hurling League over and done with for 2026. Thank you so much to Matthew for joining me on this show. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in over the course of the last hour and 5 minutes, and especially those who got involved in the live chat. You really helped to make that another enjoyable episode. Don't forget, we'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. for a weekend preview show, and on Wednesday, our full football championship preview that we recorded on the 28th of March will drop on all 5 channels. So make sure you are tuned in for that, and we will have content flooding across our socials about the upcoming All-Ireland Football Championship. So keep an eye out for that, and thank you so much for joining us once again. Until the next time, Tora.
Instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.